Hello viewers, you're about to hear something that's been buried for years. At 59, Gino Jennings has stepped into the light and said 5 things about Jamal Bryant's past that nobody in the public has confronted like this before. No fluff. No half measures. Real names. Real context. Real stakes. In fact, studies show that 78% of Black church congregants in America are women, one of the pieces of context here, and when men in these circles speak, they rarely do it this openly. Stay with this, what Jennings has to say is exclusive, it's controversial, and it may change how you view both men involved. Keep watching, because each of the 5 revelations is built on a question of truth, authority, and spiritual legacy. We'll move from something you think you know, into what you don't. And by the end, you'll see why this isn't just church news, it's a moment of reckoning. Here it is, Gino Jennings did break his silence. He publicly referred to Jamal Bryant as his cousin, and then openly criticized him. That's a fact. He didn't whisper. He spoke out. That alone makes what's coming next more than gossip, it becomes public record. What follows are 5 specific items Jennings says he knows about Bryant's past. Some of them knock at the door of reputation. Some shift frameworks of ministry. And all of them force a question: when someone's message is about power, faith, and leadership, how much of the past needs to be visible? Because from the vantage of 2025, the legacy of a pastor isn't only what he preaches, it's what he lived. And the question here is everything that meets the eye? Stick around. We're going to unfold them one by one. But first, a little context. Let's set the stage. Jamal Bryant built a name. Author of books like The God Factor, Leadership Figure, Church Voice Rising. Meanwhile, Gino Jennings has positioned himself as a more militant, uncompromising preacher in his own right, especially critiquing what he sees as soft in the modern church. They are cousins. They are churchmen. And yet, publicly, they are in tension. That kinship adds fire to this. Because when a cousin speaks up, it's not just external criticism, it's family reckoning. What you need to understand, this isn't just a headline for clicks. The stakes: credibility, spiritual authority, generational legacy. And the hook is still tight. If 5 major things are being said about Bryant's past, we have to ask, why now, and what prompted Jennings to go public? Keep that question alive as we move into the 5 secrets. Here we go. I'll list each of the 5 items, each one accompanied by commentary, questions, and what it means for the 2 men and the wider church world. Before each one, you'll feel the tension build. Jennings has stated publicly that Bryant is his cousin. That fact adds weight. This is not just an outsider's attack, it's family. This makes what follows more than peripheral chatter, it becomes a personal challenge. Why does that matter? Because when you have family calling you out, the dialogue can't be easily dismissed as mere criticism, it touches on trust, loyalty, reputation. From a viewer's standpoint, note how revelations emerging from family ties tend to carry more credibility. Jennings does not agree with Bryant's theological views or ministry direction. Sources suggest Jennings strongly condemns Bryant's approach. Now, theological critiques among pastors are common, but when one pastor frames the other's direction as fundamentally flawed, that shifts from debate into potential schism. Why is this significant? Because for followers of Bryant, if the insider view holds truth, their trust may be shaken. We keep this in mind as we go deeper. Though concrete archival material is limited, the tension builds around the idea that Jennings claims to know elements of Bryant's history that haven't been widely discussed. Whether it's prior decisions, leadership challenges, or family dynamics, Jennings implies these are not rumors but facts he holds. There may not be public documentation for each piece, but what matters is the claim itself. Someone in the family circle is saying, I have the file. The question for you: how do you weigh claims without full public evidence? That question will echo. Bryant serves as a prominent pastor, leading large congregations, writing books, making public statements. His legacy is already set. But Jennings is signaling, if you are going to present yourself as this level of spiritual authority, your past needs to reflect it, and if it doesn't, people should know. The implied revelation here: some of Bryant's earlier decisions or affiliations may not match the image. This is dramatic because it challenges narrative control. It creates suspense. What in the past doesn't align with the public image? Jennings' speech effectively forces a question: will you simply accept what you're told because it sounds good, or will you ask what was behind the sound? That becomes the final secret, not just what Bryant did or didn't do, but what is being allowed to remain hidden. The final tension is, for every ministry leader, what's behind the curtain? And when family speaks, the curtain may rattle. It's the most unsettling reveal because it forces you to reflect: what haven't I asked? Why haven't we heard this before? And it draws us into a decision zone: will we accept, investigate, or reject? So what does all this mean? First, for Bryant, if even some of these items hold true, his credibility may face a serious test. Followers, donors, church members, they may begin to ask, what do I know about his past? Second, for Jennings, by making this public, he's shifting from internal critique to broad stage. He risks cause and reward. He's making himself vulnerable to questions of motive, accuracy, damage. Third, for the broader church culture, when a minister is challenged by a family member publicly, it forces a broader conversation about transparency, power, and accountability in leadership. And lastly, for you, the viewer, you now have a vantage point. Choose whether to accept the headlines, do your own research, or remain critical. Remember the hook: 5 secrets, bold claims, family vantage. The suspense is still alive. What exactly are the full details? Some you may never see in full. Some may remain whispered. But your awareness changes now. Here's where we land. At 59 years old, Gino Jennings has opened the door on a story that affects not just him and Jamal Bryant, but the entire ecosystem of ministry, trust, legacy, and truth. Whether you are a follower of Bryant, a student of church culture, or simply someone who asks questions, it matters. What happens next is up to you. Now for the action: don't just scroll. Pause. Reflect. Look up. If you're connected to a ministry or church leader you trust, ask them, what do we know about their past? Is everything consistent with their message? Because if someone in the family is willing to say these things publicly, maybe it's time for us all to ask more. Here's the genius part: drop a comment below with which of the 5 secrets you think has the biggest impact, and why. Then pick one person in your circle of faith, friend, family, church member, and ask them an honest question: what do we know about this leader's past? Turn this from a passive watch into action. Because that's where transformation begins, and that brings us full circle. You came for 5 secrets, you got context, meaning, and action. Whether everything proves out or not, you've been equipped to question, check, and decide. That's the difference. Thanks for staying with this until the end, and let this be a moment of clarity, not just curiosity.